Then comes to questions. For oral answer, question number 1, in the name of Nuk Korako.
Te mango e te whare, tēnā koe. Huri no te whare paramata nei, e mihi atu kia koutou katoa. My question, sir, is to the Minister of Finance and asks, what steps is the government taking to support a more diverse and resilient New Zealand economy?
The Honourable Bill English.
Mr Speaker, one significant step is improving access for our exporters through trade negotiations. Alongside the recently completed Trans-Pacific Partnership, the Government is currently negotiating the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership involving 16 countries, the Trade and Services Agreement involving 23 countries, reducing barriers to service exports, environmental goods negotiations aim to reduce tariffs on 54 environmental goods across 14 countries, and a free trade agreement with the European Union has recently been commenced. Just last week, it was announced that exports to Chinese Taipei have increased 22% to $1.2 billion in the year since the agreement was signed with them.
Supplementary.
Supplementary question, Nuk Korako.
What recent reports has he received pointing to an improving outlook for the New Zealand economy?
The Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr Speaker, it's pretty clear that the economy was softer than expected in the first half of 2015. Recent data is a bit more encouraging. Performance of Services Index for October was 56.2, showing continuing growth in the service sector, which matters because it's 70% of the economy. The Performance of Manufacturing Index was also an expansion at 53, showing growth in manufacturing for the 37th consecutive month.
Order.
Supplementary.
Supplementary question, Nuk Korako.
What role is the public service playing in increasing productivity as part of delivering better services for New Zealanders?
The Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr Speaker, as I said, services are 70% of the economy, and the public sector is a significant proportion of those services. By tying the funding of public services to getting better results, we are lifting accountability for each dollar that is spent. And we're starting to see results. The total welfare liability now independently estimated at $69 billion, which is down $7.5 billion in the year to June 2014, about 2% of the 2% of the reduction due to reforms made by the Ministry of Social Development.
Supplementary.
Supplementary question, Nuk Korako.
How is the government's continuing investment in better social services helping to support higher resilience?
The Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr Speaker, in one pretty important way, and that is our investment in young people. The government has developed a number of new pipelines for young people from school through training and into education, in particular the Youth Guarantee and the Youth Services Program. And in both cases we're seeing good results, and the number of young people not in employment, education or training is as low as it's been for a long time.
Supplementary question, the Right Honourable Winston Peters.
Minister, if any of that is true, why could he not tell his colleague who asked the question that in his numerous caucus or sub-caucus meetings, rather than come along and try and bore the House?
That's a very marginal question, the Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr Speaker, purely for the members' benefit, because he's known for conducting politics on a basis free of facts, and it's always useful for him to hear from us.
Order.
That's question number two.
Question number 2. Order.